Welcome to Speakernomics, the official podcast of the National Speakers Association. Created by speakers for speakers. It's your fast track to sharper skills, bigger impact, and a smarter speaking business. Subscribe and download using the link below. And step into the spotlight.
The speaking profession is a noble business. It's a way for us to reach out and to help people many different ways. And there's ways that we can do it, some clever ways that are really smart, helping all involved. And our guest today here on Speakernomics is a person who is doing that, helping many people in a variety of ways. He is going to help us learn about many different kinds of tools that are there and what he's doing right now. His name is Ryan Vett. Ryan is an author who's got a bestseller with USA Today, where he's put out a book called, I like the title of this, To Speak Gooder. And that's Goodr. I like that. Good marketing, because you look at that and you kind of go, okay, that's cool. But he's done a lot of different things in many areas. And one of them that we want to talk about today will be about sponsorship and how we can use that to our advantage when the budget might not be there. I don't know if you've ever run into that, but sometimes that happens. It's not there. Well, he's found a creative way to do it. Ryan, thanks for being with us today.
Terry, thank you so much for having me.
It's great to be here. Well, now you got us excited because we want to look at this. Sometimes we go out there and we say, okay, I want to speak and my budget or my fee is X, whatever that dollar might be. My budget, my fee is X. And they go, oh, we can't afford X. We can only afford Y, which is substantially lower. Let's say whatever the numbers might be. You are using a way to do that with sponsorship that helps really everyone get involved in many different ways. And I like the way you creatively refer to it, not so much as sponsorship, but in another, I think, more rich and beautiful way as well. Tell us a little bit about that and what it is and how you do that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love the word partnership because I really truly think it's a partnership. And as I sort of unfold this business model, I think it really encapsulates more than a transaction, but a relationship that allows you to go deep. So I know it's probably only you and me. No one else has had this, but sometimes meetings just don't have the budget for whatever reason. And
who'd have thunk?
it's tough. But I'm an entrepreneur, and I spent many years in that space. And whenever we get a problem, we don't take no for an answer. And so I tried to figure out, how can I make this a win-win-win? You've got to have it a win for the meeting professionals, first of all, but it's got to be a win for the audience because that automatically makes it a win for the meeting professional. And then it's got to be a win for anyone that you work with or are taking any sort of sponsorship or partnership dollars from. So how do you do that? And ultimately, it's got to be a win for you. But if you're getting your fee in one way, shape, or form, usually that constitutes. So I started to look at some of these events and meetings that I wanted to be a part of and just couldn't because it did not fit my business model from an economic standpoint. Not that I wanted to be a diva, but we have a business that we're running. And so there are certain limitations on what fee we may or may not accept. And as I was exploring some of these possibilities, I took a play from the corporate world that I was in, and I said, you look around and you can sponsor anything. You look at NASCAR, you look at NIL now with even college athletes, you look at anything, there's sponsorships happening left and right. So the question I started wrestling with was, how can I make that relevant to my speaking business that not only allows me to offset my speaker fee, but adds value to the audience and to the meeting professionals? And that's really where I came up with this concept of partnerships. And they're not transactions. They are at least 1-year commitments that I have with an individual brand or company.
Nice. So it's more than just do it for the event we have next month on the 14th over here in this city, et cetera. It goes for a year. How do you structure that? And what are the ways that you let them know the benefits to them for doing it for longer than one particular speech?
Great question. So first of all, when it comes to the speech or presentation, I normally know how many I have in the next. I'm usually booking 18 months to 2 years out, not 18 years out, 18 months to 2 years.
Well, you could try 18 years. That'd be good.
I could try.
Who knows what AI could
that
do
would
for
be great.
us.
And sometimes it's shorter notice than that.
Right.
Obviously, I'm not saying that's I don't accept anything before that, but usually around October of every year, I will send my partners, I'll send them, it's usually like a 7 or 8 page document, and it's talking about my metrics that year, and we'll get into that, who I've spoken for, what the audience makeup is, and then I'll say, here's where I'm speaking in the following year, and here's the audiences. So same type of thing. You start with the year in review, and then you look forward and say, this is the opportunity I have. Let's say, I'm going to charge $1 for the year. Let's just say that's what it is. And so you look forward and say, for all of this is what I want to offer to you. Now, this is where it gets tricky. You can't just go sell a partnership deal or a sponsorship deal without your meeting professionals knowing. That would be a huge lapse in integrity. So you have to kind of be working both of these in tandem. So basically, I will do is starting with getting a opportunity. A meeting professional contacts me and say, hey, we've got the ABC Association meeting in March of 2020 X, and our fee is this much. I say, well, that's about 60% less than I can take. Do you offer or do you allow me to bring in outside sponsors? And most of them are actually pretty surprised when I ask that because they don't know exactly what that means. And I walk them through it. And so I say, well, do you allow ads in your program? Do you allow a trade show booth? Do you allow X, Y, and Z? And if so, what if I worked with a partner and brought them in to give you those things? And one of the
So
next
you're
questions.
helping the partners all the way around, more than just one. You're able to see how can everybody win on this.
Exactly, exactly. And so now the meeting professional is filling an exhibit space, and they have usually a new contact, which is great for future years. And they might even
Sure.
have sponsorships on meals or lanyards or fill in the blank. So there's a lot of opportunities there, or even with session sponsorships. And again, it's robust, and you can go down a rabbit hole. We could spend the next hour and a half talking about the different angles. But really, what I'm trying to do is, what is that meeting professionals intangibles that they can negotiate with, and what is of value to my partners? Now, the big question becomes, okay, if you're representing a water bottle company, for an example, which I do have a partner that's a water bottle company, are you going to be, talking for 35 minutes about this water bottle and everything that they do? And that's where it becomes really tricky. And for me, I don't. With all of my partners, they know exactly what I will and will not say from stage. And most of the time, I'm not monologuing about them at all. It's maybe a name reference, or if it's a clothing partner or that water bottle partner, I have a deal that just sits on stage in every podcast that I host, as well as on every stage that I'm on. That's it.
Yeah.
But they get a exhibit booth at a certain number of events to give out water samples. And that's the
Very
extent
nice.
of it, because now I have given them access to an event that they previously didn't have access to. So
Mhm.
that's just one example.
So it would seem like your partner who is providing, say, the water bottles,
Yes.
would they then have access ongoing to the ABC Association that you work with?
Oftentimes they do. And that's
Yep.
a great win for both the meeting professional, who can now say, hey, we've got another speaker next year. I know it's not Ryan, but would you be willing to sponsor them or come back? And if the event was successful, the water bottle company is most likely going to say yes. And so now the meeting professional is making revenue off me the subsequent year. The water bottle company has a proven market that they didn't have to invest any extra to figure out whether or not it works. So that's the win-win there. And then for me, it's a flat cost. I know exactly what my fee is, my partnership fee for each of these partners for the year. And they're paying me either monthly or quarterly, depending on that. And sometimes we have some incentives in there, but now I have consistent revenue. I can choose which opportunities I can say yes and no to, and I can go pull in these partners to offset the cost. And so I'm still making, if I aggregate it all, I'm still making the same amount per event, but I'm just doing it in a different way. It's not all necessarily coming directly from the meeting.
Ryan, I like what you're doing there because you're being very creative in finding other ways that you can add value for everyone involved, particularly yourself, yes, of course, but also for the association. So they'll say, hey, when we worked with Ryan, that was really good. We met the water company over here, the water bottle company. We're better off now. They work with us occasionally from time to time. We know the people, our members liked it. They were able to do it. So again, we get back to everyone winning. As I think about that, it seems like there'd be ways you could do it beyond the meeting itself. Let's say you're using your water bottle company as a hypothetical. You could tell them, hey, if you'd like, what I can do is I can also put you in my YouTube channel, in my blog, in my this or that, and many other ways. What are some creative ways that you've been able to add even more benefit for your partner who is in the water bottle situation or other areas?
I think that's one of the most important things. If you want a partnership and you want them to renew, which my partners have consistently renewed, so that tells you a lot right there. I like to say you have to find the intersections in your business. What are the places where they
Mhm.
naturally fit? And I think this was actually advice that someone gave to me. If you have a busy life and you want to get together with friends, what are those natural intersections you can get your families together? Whether that's going grocery shopping or something that
Mhm.
seems boring, there's a natural intersection there, and you both have to do it. So figure it out. And I do the same thing with my partner. So I think in every successful speaking business, I often talk about this. You've got streams and you've got systems. Streams are the revenue. that are coming in. The systems are, how do you make those all connect and play nicely together, and make sure that everything feeds each other? Otherwise, you just have a bunch of streams that are just like poles sticking in the water, and you have no bridge that connects them together. So I think some of the things that I do, like I said, the water bottle I'll have on my podcast that I host. I'm working with another brand right now, and they actually want to build me a new set for my podcast. And they'll
Oh,
have their
okay.
branding as part of the set in the backdrop. It's not going to be prominent. And then I'll read an intro. Another great way to do it. And so we're in conversations right now to see if that's a mutual fit. Um, and then some other ways that I do it, newsletter ads, YouTube channel reads, product reviews. There's just lots of different things that you're already doing that you can easily incorporate into your life. Like, again, let's use the water. I'll use a clothing example. So some of my clothing over the years, not right now, I'm not working with a clothing brand sponsor, but has been sponsored. And they only wanted like a, hey, see what's behind Ryan's outfit slide before I would speak sometimes, or like a little card like, here, get Ryan's discount, and you work with the meeting professional to make sure that makes sense. But the other was, hey, every single time you post it on social media, tag us. And so I did. And
How did you tag
again,
them? We're sponsored by so and so, or how did you
yeah,
handle
this
that?
outfit's provided by X, Y, and Z. Click here
Okay.
to view the full look. And so they were able to track that and trace that. And a different sponsor that I had, also clothing, has really stretchy jeans, and their ads are everyone stretching their jeans. They're really form fitted, but when you stretch them, like they stretch really far. It's like Gumby. And I was
Yeah.
on ABC, and so on the news, and they had the step and repeat banner with ABC. So I have a big picture of me, like, snapping the jeans in front of it, and they were actually chinos, so it went with my sport coat, but you couldn't see it below the news desk. And so that got huge value, and they were able to run with that. So you just figure out every single interaction that you have, and you can surprise them. I'm working with a pretty well-known AI company right now, and they're sponsoring a lot of what I do. They're one of my partners, and I was on a podcast, and I was able to naturally cite one of their studies without selling them. And then the interviewer kept going deeper on this company and wanted to know about this company. And it was a free organic sales pitch, and it was not my intention. And but it got them a lot of great content, and it was someone that I believed in. Happy to talk about sponsors I don't believe in that I've said no to as well.
Well, I think that just the fact that we know there are some, and it would be good to have some ideas of your filters, what you're going to do. I think it was Clay Shirky who said it so well. The problem is not information overload. The problem is filter failure. And if we have our filter set up, we know this is something I would not do. For instance, there's certain products that I just would not work for. There's nothing wrong with them legally. They can do it, but like cigarette companies, for instance, for me, and this is just me personally, someone else might choose to do it. That's their business. But I have certain areas where I say, I wish them well, but I'm not going to do that. And I think that's what you're saying. We have the criteria set up. But more than anything, Ryan, what you're doing is you're helping us as professionals and communicators who solve problems. I like to say we're CSPs, communicators who solve problems, that we're doing more than just getting income from speaking. It's wonderful
Right.
to do that. It's one way to do it. We stand in front of a group of people all in the same place where they're in person with our microphone. They're out there in person, but there's so much more. And this is one way to do it, so that you say, look, potential partner that might work with me for X dollars a month, whatever X is, you're going to take this, and here's what you're going to get. I will have you mentioned in this way, and this way, and this way. Plus, you can do it with your other channels, your YouTube, your blog, etc. So it seems like you've got a steady stream of, here's that beautiful phrase, recurring monthly revenue. Don't you hear the angels singing on that one? Yeah, the recurring monthly revenue. Like it's coming in no matter what. And it seems like you've tapped into that and doing that very well. Before we move on to some other things, any other suggestions or concerns that you've bumped into in that whole idea of partnership and sponsorship that you would say to your fellow NSA members?
I think a couple. One, just have a really good agreement. Have an attorney review it, because when you are doing brand partnerships, you're going deep with that relationship. And so if you say something they don't like, you need coverage there. If they start doing something or go a different direction, you need coverage there. So just a good attorney. It's nothing complicated, but that's always important. Again, know your morals and the products you won't work with, but also the companies you won't work with. I had a company that was demanding all sorts of things, and I said, I know there are meetings that will not let me do that. And I'm not going to
Mhm.
I'm not going to sacrifice my integrity as a speaker who delivers educational information to pitch you for X number of minutes for every single time I'm on stage. No. So that was a non-starter. And then I think the other one, is you can get that $1 a month to $2 a month pretty easily by offering value back to the company. So let's use
Yeah.
the water bottle as an example.
Yeah.
Let's say that they have a team of 4,000 people across the world, and you know that 1,800 of those is salespeople. You can say, I will offer free virtual sales training for your team, and that's normally valued at X, but I'm including that in my package. Or I'll write a white paper and I'm including that in my package. So now it's all, again, intersections. There are things that you would already do. They're not taking a lot of time, but all of a sudden your value just went up because when they're going to their CFO, because usually these contracts are, that level, you get to say, hey, but we're not just sponsoring his stage time. He's giving this to our company. He's providing this value asset that will live on forever. One of the brands, I wouldn't do this again, by the way, not saying you shouldn't do it, but I wouldn't do it for this company, has used my image in perpetuity with a photo shoot that they paid for my family, but I have since had not a good contract, right? Get a good attorney. And they're very good to work with. And we just had a conversation about it. Thankfully, it ended that way. But they use the same picture for Father's Day for like 5 years in a row. And so anyway, those are some thoughts, but there's so many other ways than just even being on stage that you can integrate them into everything that you do.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. It gives us the idea, hey, we can do a lot there for the hypothetical water bottle company or whatever it would be for each of us, that you can help them and you're going to have them meet you in Orlando and you're going to give the presentation to them, train their people on this. But also the first Monday of every month at 3 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to give them a virtual training. Those things are possible for you. And if that's appropriate, I think it's a good idea to have several possibilities that you could then present to the potential partner, who would be the water bottle company or someone else, and make sure you have, or maybe have different ones, because there might be that one client you have would be appropriate for water bottles, whereas another client wouldn't care for the water bottles, but they would want something else.
Right.
So it opens up a whole world of possibilities. And so as we look at other possibilities that are there, one of the things we're doing today, of course, with AI, doing a lot with that and being able to reach out to people using many different social media as well. You could use YouTube. Seems like we could do a lot with many different tools like LinkedIn, et cetera. What are you doing in the field of social media, working with AI as well, that's helping you in your business today?
Yeah, I think I'm a huge advocate of AI, but I'm also a living paradox. Back when I was in the startup world, 2010, 11, and 12, the first company that I sold was an AI startup. So I've been doing this for a decade and a half or so. And now I'm not a developer, by the way. We wrote some algorithms on whiteboards and paper, but I'm not that smart. But I understand AI pretty intimately. And so I think there's some great uses for it. And I think there's some places where as speakers, we're going to very quickly get discredited, even as authors. And so you have to draw firm lines in your sand. I have an AI use on my website. And I can send them a link. It's not, you can't just go access it, but you could search it and probably find it. But basically it's like, here's what I will use AI for and here's what I won't. And if I do use it for something outside of this scope, I will absolutely mark that this is what I'm used for. So my blog hero images, they're all AI and it's disclosed. I do use AI for copy editing, absolutely. But I've also started to turn off one of the leading ones that I won't call out here because they're rewriting what I'm writing. It's no longer adjusting for grammar, but it's changing the integrity of my content. Any book that I write and publish, I will not. Every word is mine. It's written.
Bingo.
And that's really important to me. But on some faster copy and content like social media, like you mentioned, a lot of that's repurposing writing I've already done using AI tools. So, you've got to figure out where your limits are. But ultimately, humans are going to and are already seeing the AI slop and can see through it and can see what's not real. I had someone comment today on LinkedIn. I'm like, that was not written by a human being. That makes no sense. You pulled out 3 points that I had, rewrote a LinkedIn comment, and added no value to anybody. I responded kindly. I did not let them know that it was AI, that I could tell it was AI. But, you've got to figure out what it is and use the tools so you can accelerate, but don't let them replace your thinking. That is what probably is most concerning and has been most concerning since we were working on early versions of image recognition and prediction back in the early 2010s.
I agree with you. I think the key is we use them as an assistant, and it's a necessary assistant now to get the initial information to us. I like to say a month pattern that I go through regularly on that is I start with my ideas. when I have an idea and just it hits me upside the noggin. I go, oh, that's a good idea. I've got a
Yeah.
Google Doc called content creation, and I just go over there, do usually a brain dump using voice dictation because I can talk faster than I can type. So I just dump it in there. It's not grammatically correct. It's not spelled right. There's words are going to be different, but it's just a brain dump. And I put that in there. I call it my rough draft. Now I'm putting
I
that in
love
there.
that.
I call it my doggy draft. You know, the nerd in me thinks that's funny. So I put that in there and I think, okay, there it is. But then I go through that and then I language it and I wordsmith it a little bit. Then
Yeah.
I take it to AI and say, take a look at this and make sure everything's cleaned up. Correct any misspelled words. And sometimes in my Google Docs, it indents to on the start of a new paragraph. And sometimes we'll start the letter in a lowercase. Well, I'll let AI clean that up because can I do it? Well, of course, but it's a lot of time. I let AI do that. And then I ask AI to give me suggestions. And it gives me suggestions on things that I then take, reword it. And as I like to say, we need to you-ize it. So you're going to make it you. You're going to Ryanize it. You know, someone named Mary would Maryize it. For me, I get to Terryize it, which sounds kind of cool. But I can do that, put it in there like that. And I think by using the AI that way, we get a lot more done and can do a whole lot more, taking that and going far beyond it. But I like your ideas of being careful on not letting AI do the whole thing. Tell us a little bit more about that and what you put in place to make sure that we keep the guardrails up and that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think it's so simple. But write down what you will and will not use it for, and print it out or write it in handwriting. And put it somewhere that where you're going to remember because it is easy to slip into things. And do I use AI writing for personal things? Absolutely. But there are certain lines I will not cross. I have typed every single word in each book. Like that's just important to me. Now editors fix it, but I use real editors too because some of these editors are AI editors are transforming it too much. But on, again, blog content, LinkedIn content, faster things, again, all my ideas usually dictated. But I even just changed my dictating software that I've used because they started to summarize or clean up grammar. And some of that I intentionally speak gooder. I intentionally every once in a while will throw a fragment
Absolutely.
in there. And so writing down your guardrails, I think, is so important, and then sticking to it. If you build your whole business, I was talking to someone who I greatly respect, and she only writes with AI for her blog posts because she's not a strong writer, and she discloses that, and there's still her ideas, her unique stories that are just fabricated, but she discloses it. I'm like, you know what? I respect that, and her following is growing really quickly, and that's what she has decided to do. More power to her. She's being honest about it. But one quick story because we're speakers and we tell everything in stories.
Yeah,
But
we have to. It's required by law, I think.
it was, yeah. But I'm a professor, and I had a student using AI to do an assignment and verbatim. Like you could tell that this was copy and pasted the prompt. Like they didn't try at all. So I called him into office hours and asked him if he used AI, and he told me no. I said, he told me he didn't know what AI was. I was like, okay. I said, do you mind if I show you how I use AI? So I copied and pasted the prompt, picked the company that his research paper was on, almost verbatim, spits out the same report. I asked him again, did you use AI? And he said, no. I said, okay, I am now failing you and citing you for an honor code violation, not because you used AI, but because you lied about it. Because I had
Mm.
someone else that used AI. I asked them, they said, yeah, I did. I ran out of time. I said, great, let's work on making sure you understand the content. And so I think that's what it comes down to is integrity. And that's going to shine through. It's going to shine through.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The key is, and the take-home value is full disclosure. That if you're using it, you say what you're going to do. I have that I put into my work that I put out often and say, this is originally from me. Then I have AI clean it up and sometimes deliberately have bad grammar. Because, hey, this is a conversational, fun, tongue-in-cheek kind of communication sometimes. So deliberately bad grammar. Now, I'm not writing a PhD dissertation. If
Right.
I'm writing that, that's a whole different ballgame. Will we use AI if I were to write a PhD dissertation? Not planning on that right away. But if I did that, well, yeah, we would use it and be fully disclosed and make sure it's done properly, ethically, and with full knowledge of those that would be involved in it. And I think those are the real keys on that. Well, another thing I want to do as we begin to wind up here, you do a lot of work on generations. showing the differences between generations. I love what you said. Just as we're recording this today, I read a post that you put in there that many times boomers will look down at the Gen X and say, oh, they're all lazy. They're just no good, which I don't believe at all, being a boomer myself, but I see people like that. What do you see in just 60 seconds or so that we need to be aware of, whatever generation we're in? What are some principles you've seen that work? Some ways to get along with the generations with the distinct differences where we were born that you have found that helps other people?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is what I call the label lie. And we have labeled every generation, really starting with millennials and Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and now Gen Beta being born this year. Before that, generations were labeled well after they were born, well after they had established some sort of identity as a cohort. So the quickest example I have, and I'll do it real quick because you gave me just a time limit here. But if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see I'm making a prism, a triangle with my hands. If not, I'm making a triangle with my hands if you're listening. And basically, a prism, when you refract light through it, it creates some sort of light design, usually like a rainbow or something like that. But that byproduct is the light refracting through the prism. Often, I call that prism or the refraction the label. So often we say, oh, millennials this, Gen Z this, Gen Beta that, Gen Alpha this. But really, if you look at it, I say the two other sides of the triangle are age and moment. I'll give you a quick example. Everyone said that millennials were job hoppers, hopped jobs faster than any other generation. So I say, let's look at the data. Let's take longitudinal data, go back to the 1950s with Bureau of Labor Statistics, GSS, and some others, and look, how often did they hop their first job? So I took the age 25 and I looked at boomers, Gen X, and millennials by age 25. How many jobs have they hopped? So that's one element. And then the other is moment. What was going on in history when boomers were 25, when Gen X was 25, and when millennials were 25? So you'd be surprised. Millennials and boomers and Gen X both hopped jobs about 5.3 times, 5.3 different jobs by the time they turned 25. Millennials only hopped 5.6. So what was the big difference? Well, if you look at the moment for most boomers, when they were born, child labor laws didn't exist. For about half of Gen X, child labor laws exist. And millennials, well, they're all going to college, and their first job was actually average age about 19, which means the majority of millennials were waiting until after they graduated to get their first job and would subsequently hop 5.6 times in 3 to 4 years. So you have to look at it, and again, we went through that real fast, but you have to look at it and say, okay, does this label actually stick? Or is this just what media is propagating and perpetuating because it gets clicks and we read it? And so that's the generational prism. I unpack it a lot further every week in my writing, but that's one of the frameworks that I use.
I love that. I think that's so beautiful. What you're saying is we really have to understand the context of what it is, when they were born, what the situation was, and all that. Matter of fact, that seems to apply wherever you are on the planet, whenever you were born, being able to do that. Ryan, we appreciate all that you've given us. You've got a lot of good. And if someone says, hey, I need to stay in touch with this guy, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, well, I'm super easy to connect with, Terry. You can find me on LinkedIn, Ryan Vett, just VET. It is that simple. Don't try to add letters. You won't find me if you do.
Spell Ryan for someone that might not know that. It could be.
It is RYAN. Yep. And you can also go to my website, ryanvett.com. Check out the newsletter Collide that I was just mentioning, the Ryan Vett Show on YouTube or anywhere where you stream podcasts. Pretty easy to find. I would love to connect. Let me know you're a part of NSA. NSA has been a big part of my life for the past 17-ish years, and would love to connect.
Well, Ryan, we appreciate you taking time to be with us here on Speakernomics today, and for all that you're doing for NSA. We really appreciate it, sir.
Thank you.
And for those of you watching this, think about what Ryan said. A lot of wisdom in there from the sponsorships and the way that you can get partners. I love that idea. I'm going to have to implement some of that myself. Put that in there. We're branching out so that we're more than just speaking on a platform to get income. We are communicators who solve problems and do that in a host of different ways. And as we look at where we are, the opportunities are enormous. I'm Terry Brock, and on behalf of the team here at Speakernomics for NSA, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Speakernomics. If you want more bookings, credibility, and connections, your NSA community is waiting for you. Join NSA today. Click the link below and follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and download this podcast wherever you listen.